And we're back, and this forum will again follow the format of the previous, where there'll be a minute and a half to open, and then we will go to the questions. We'll alternate the person beginning, and we have someone timing to let you know when you're running short on time. After every question, there'll be an optional 15 seconds to comment on the other's response or to add something yourself, and then we'll have a minute and a half. And we're going to try to get through 3 or 4 questions here. Anyway, and just as a word to the public, just to explain again. So the incumbent district attorney, who is the chief prosecutor, criminal prosecutor for the county. It's an elected position. It's a 4-year position with no term limits. And the incumbent is not running again. So we have 2 challengers here. We have one Democrat and one Republican. They will be on the primary ballots, but they will advance to the general, where they will be side by side, and they'll have another chance to hear from them after the primary. So we'll go ahead and get started, and again, we'll alternate. We'll start with Lynn Boak is the Democratic and candidate. Leanne Grant-Manlove is the Republican. So we'll go ahead and start with Ms. Boak with a minute and a half to open, and it should be on.
Oh, yeah.
There you go. Thank you.
Again, my name is Lynn Boak. I'm running for district attorney. I've got 3 reasons that I'm running. The first one I have already talked about, my experience, judgment, and integrity. I've had a total of about 26 years in law enforcement, both for the district attorney's office in Denver and district attorney's office in Fort Collins, and then also I had 20 years in federal law enforcement. I've been practicing law for, it'll be 40 years next year. I've lived in Cheyenne and been a part of the community. I want to contribute more. I have been on a number of boards and have enjoyed that service very much. I want to continue in the public service that I have come to really enjoy. And third, I think I can improve the functioning of the DA's office. I have spoken to a number of people, including the incumbent. I've spoken to someone from the, I'm sorry, I'm drawing a blank on her name, but someone from the Department of Corrections. I have an appointment with Chief Kozad on Thursday, and I'm going to talk to the incumbent sheriff as soon as I can catch up to him. I want to empower the people that would be working for me, and I think I'm qualified.
Great, thank you. Ms. Manlove.
Thank you, Marguerite, and to Lindy Kirkbride, our capable timekeeper, and to the League of Women Voters. When I opened, I told you who I am as a prosecutor, and I want to tell you who I am as a person. Through my father's family, I think going back to my great-great-great-grandparents, John and Mary Ann Doyle, I'm a resident of Laramie County. They came here before Wyoming was a state, so my roots run very deep. I chose to have a family here with my husband, and I'm going to give him a shout out. He's standing in the back, Cole Manlove. This is how we're celebrating our 24 years of wedded bliss today.
Congratulations.
Campaigning. We chose to raise our children, Keenan and Connor here. They're also in the room with me and my parents, and they're the reason that I'm running. My children, your children, the children in this community deserve better than what they've gotten in the last 3.5 years. And the women in this community deserve better than what they've gotten in the 3.5 years of this last administration, and I intend to make a difference. And I intend to bring integrity and sound judgment and careful conviction to the office of district attorney. And that's who I am.
Okay, thank you very much. And you can just keep the microphone as we're alternating the person starting the round. And we'll start with the question that we're starting out all the forums, 3 major issues, and your response to it. Minute and a half.
I think the 3 major issues facing the district attorney's office right now and continuing on through the next couple of years are these. convictions, operations, and plea bargains. And what I have found as we've gone door to door campaigning, talking with approximately 15,000 voters in Laramie County, is that my priorities are shared by the community. Our community is tired of plea bargains that are a slap on the wrist or that give away the farm. And I'm tired of it too. What we need are plea agreements that have integrity, plea agreements that are fair and appropriate given all of the circumstances. My pledge is to bring a tough on crime approach and common sense back to negotiations with the defense bar. Because we can achieve agreements that give victims a voice and that achieve justice and that impose real consequences on offenders. In terms of operations, the district attorney's office needs to be properly and appropriately staffed. That means all 12 attorney positions should be filled at all times with people who have the appropriate experience and ability to do a good job on behalf of all of us. It's a $4.2 million budget, 3.8 of that goes to personnel, and we should be getting what we pay for. In terms of convictions, if we use sound judgment when we're charging and evaluating cases, we can guarantee convictions on the back end.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Bullock.
I think I agree with Ms. Manlove on some of these issues that she's mentioned, but I would also add that I don't think that the word plea bargain should be a dirty word. I think it's something that has to be done. Not every case can be tried, and not every case can even be tried to a conviction. And the charge has to be appropriate in the first place in order to achieve a result that is fair and is just. I think that there has been a lack of leadership in the DA's office, and I would like to see that change. I think that the budget, I've seen the budget, and it appears that the vast majority of cases that are filed in the DA's office are misdemeanors. The serious crimes, those against children and women and elderly people, are the ones that the district attorney's office needs to concentrate on. I have met with a number of people who are stakeholders in the criminal justice system, and I intend to meet with more of them before the election. And I agree with Ms. Manlove that as your DA, I would represent the people of Laramie County in court and out of court. I would see that criminal charges that are filed are appropriate.
Okay, thank you. Another 15 minutes, either one wants to take? Okay, we will move on. 15 seconds. Pardon me. So we'll go ahead and start, and we'll start this time with Ms. Vogt, your turn. And the question is, you know, how, I guess, would you, or how would you handle charging decisions? And I guess within the discretion that is available to a district attorney, how would you use that discretion in making charging decisions?
Well, I think that cases need to be triaged. They need to be prioritized, and I think the more serious crimes, of course, should get more attention. But I do know that to every victim of any kind of crime, no matter how, no matter whether it's a misdemeanor or a felony, feels that their matter is the most important thing in the world. And so I certainly wouldn't minimize the input of any victims for any kind of a situation. That's all.
Okay, and you know, something occurs later, you can add it in 15 seconds or in your closing. So Ms. Manlove, just within the discretion that is available, how would you make those charging decisions?
Charging decisions need to be made very, very carefully. They have to take into account all of the facts and circumstances of a case. And sometimes that means that right after a crime is committed, you're not able to charge. You need to wait for the outcome of the investigation. And that can be difficult, especially in the culture in which we live, where everyone's tweeting and Instagramming and Facebooking and commenting. There has to be diligence. There has to be a sincere belief in due process. And I can tell you that's one of the things that I've learned in private practice, is that I would go back into the attorney's office, if so elected, with having sat on the other side of the state versus the defendant. And what I take most from that is my belief in the bedrock of our Constitution. And I think that that's the single important thing when we're talking about how we charge a case. We have to do it properly.
Okay, thank you. Another one?
I just, I do think that to some extent the rights of the defendant have been overlooked in this discussion, and the defendant has the right to not be charged for a crime that he or she didn't commit. And I think that I agree with Ms. Manlow that it should be a very diligent investigation.
Okay, thank you. And yeah, this time we'll start with, did you have anything to, well, actually it's Ms. Manlow, so it's like a talking stick, kind of, in a way, it reminds me of Girl Scout camp. How would you handle the growing population of mentally ill offenders passing through the criminal justice system? And that gets to the resources of the district attorney's office, or using consultants outside if you didn't have the expertise. So the problem with mental illness in crimes.
I appreciate whoever posed this question. Our community is full of all kinds of people, including people who struggle with PTSD, diagnosed mental issues, people who are self-medicating to treat perhaps even undiagnosed mental health issues. My approach would be to follow the law, and the law in Wyoming is very clear. If a defendant believes that he's not guilty by reason of mental incompetence, there's a rule of criminal procedure that requires what the defense and the state and the courts must do. And oftentimes it does involve getting the state hospital involved and obtaining an evaluation to determine if this person is capable of understanding the charges against him or her and assisting in that defense. So I would follow the law to the T.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Bowe.
I agree that there's a procedure in place for this, but there's also some discretion in the district attorney's office where even if someone was capable of understanding that their acts, if they are so clearly out of their minds that they need treatment rather than prosecution, I think the district attorney's office should consider that first before they consider prosecution. And I understand that the procedure and the standards are in place, and I would certainly follow those.
Okay, thank you. Follow-up? Okay.
Yes, thank you. The question specifically that you posed was mental illness. If we're talking about a cognitive disability, let's say autism or something along those lines, then we look again to the law. And if you are incapable of forming the intent that is an element of the offense with which you're being charged, then it's not appropriate to proceed.
Okay, thank you. Further follow-up, or, okay. Well, then we'll start with Ms. Vogt. So tonight, the county commissioners and the sheriffs both mentioned jail overcrowding. It's an issue it's a very expensive issue, but it also has some civil rights issues and other issues involved. With that being the case, what reforms would you support? Alternatives to incarceration, anything else to address this issue? Anyway, just what role the district attorney's office has in the prison population?
The role that the district attorney's office has is in opposing or agreeing to bail, for example, and I think that the district attorney's office can certainly, I think that as a district attorney, I would certainly advocate for reforms such as monitoring that didn't involve incarceration. I understand that there's a rather high expense in medicating certain individuals who are in jail. I think that that should be something that is considered as well. I think that the district attorney's office should partner with the other law enforcement agencies in deciding how best to address the issue of jail overcrowding.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Manlow.
I believe that the question as you posed it, the role of the district attorney in advocating for prison reform, is not the role of the district attorney. And in fact, when you look at the role of the district attorney as defined by statute, it says prosecuting. My pledge as district attorney is that I won't create public policy. I don't believe that that's appropriate for an executive branch position. If you're asking about issues regarding bond, if you look at the federal and the state constitution, and you look at the Wyoming rules of criminal procedure, those are very clear. Everyone is entitled to bond. They're entitled to a bond hearing. And the role of the district attorney in that process is to ensure, number one, that the defendant appears for court. Secondly, that the bond is appropriate to ensure that the defendant doesn't hurt him or herself or anyone else.
Okay, follow-up, either one?
I think that the district attorney's experience in prosecuting these offenses can inform and can help the people who make policy establish reforms. I don't think that the district attorney's office is the appropriate office to make the reforms or suggest them.
All right, and we're going to start with Ms. Manlow. Did you have a follow-up at this point? Okay. So we have a question here about improving, working with other agencies to bring forth more convictions. I wanted to comment on that, and it's how do you plan to? So it presumes you will, and how would that work?
This is an important question because in the Laramie County District Attorney's Office, you're working with the Division of Criminal Investigation, the Wyoming Highway Patrol, the Pine Bluffs Police Department, the Cheyenne Police Department, the Laramie County Sheriff's Office, and the Wyoming Division of Probation and Parole. So you have to be able to establish really great working relationships with those entities. I worked very hard when I was in the prosecutor's office for 5 years to build those kinds of relationships. Also with DFS and different victim advocacy groups. But I think when we're talking about the district attorney's office and how I see my role, I need to make sure my own bed is made. I need to make sure my own room is clean. Before I start pointing fingers or laying blame at the feet of other people, I need to make sure my office is doing what it's supposed to do.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Boak.
Would you repeat the question, please?
Sure. The question as it is written is, how do you plan to improve relations with other agencies to produce more convictions, to achieve more convictions?
Well, I think the short answer is communication and just establishing relationships with these people and starting immediately upon assuming office, if not beforehand. And I realize that Ms. Manlove has been in the office. I have not been in a criminal practice area for some time, but I pride myself on being good at establishing working relationships with different groups. And I certainly don't think I would have any trouble at this point. I don't think that paying attention to the other stakeholders in the criminal justice system implies that you are not keeping your own house in order. And I would certainly make sure that that happened first.
Okay, thank you. Follow up? Okay. Well, then this will be a closing question before you do your final statements. And so, and the question is about retaining staff. And Ms. Manlove, you made a reference to that being fully staffed. How do you attract and retain staff? And I'm sure it's sort of, quality staff. So how would you want to, actually, we start with Ms. Bogue, I'm sorry. losing track here. Anyway, so the, you know, the idea of keeping a full staff, quality staff, how do you get that? How do you achieve that?
I think the most important thing is to hire good people and to give them as much responsibility as they want. You have to make sure that they feel empowered and that they feel trusted and that they feel that they want to give you their very best effort. I think that all else follows from that. I think I have been an administrator and I had very good relationships with my employees. They all respected me, they all trusted me, and they wanted to give me their very best effort, and I think that's the most important part of hiring and retaining good staff.
Thank you, Ms. Mandler.
It starts at the top. Employees and other people within the system have to have confidence and trust in the leadership and the direction and the vision and the competence of the person leading the office. And I know that I can deliver all of those things as the district attorney in Laramie County. I want to push back on one issue that I've frequently heard as a complaint or an excuse for why things aren't being done the way they should be, and that is this notion of overburdened, enormous caseload. Anyone can go to the Wyoming Division of Criminal Investigation website and look at crime statistics. In 2012, in Laramie County, index crimes, which are violent crimes, serious offenses, were 2,941. Fast forward to 2017, and you might believe that it's gigantically bigger than that, and it's actually a difference of 119 cases. So the difference is not in the caseload, the difference is in the leadership.
Okay, thank you. Does anyone want to follow up on that at this point? Well, then we'll just go right to the closing now, and we'll begin with Ms. Manlove. A minute and a half, you can summarize or strike out on a new topic, so go ahead, please.
I don't need a minute and a half to tell every voter in Laramie County what I want you to remember when you're looking at your ballot. And that is that I have never had a desire to be a politician. This is a very strange seat to be finding myself in. I'm not at all interested in the title. I just want to do the work. I want to do the work as your public servant.
Thank you, Ms. Bowe.
It's hard to describe what would motivate someone to want an office like this, and I think the fact that there are only 2 candidates for it tells us something. It is hard work. It is sometimes a no-win situation for the person that holds the office. I have a passion for doing the very best I can, even if I'm up at all hours, and my husband can certainly attest to that. I come from a family of public servants. It's been instilled into me that my life should be devoted to the welfare of others, and that's why I want to run, and that's why I want to be your district attorney.
Okay, thank you. Can we give them an applause? Thank you. And give us a couple minutes, and the hardy people who are supporting the coroner candidates. Finally, we'll get to the coroner candidates shortly, and take a couple of minutes to switch things out. Thank you.